light is dim. An 8-watt bulb swings gently from the ceiling, casting a pale glow across a small room in 1970s China. A boy watches his father stack 2 chairs to reach that little circle of light so he can study. Sweat trickles down the man's back. The silence is heavy, the kind that smells like hunger, fear, and hope. Ming Wang was 14. The government had closed every school. More than 20 million young people were being sent to labor camps, condemned to a lifetime of poverty and ignorance, and he knew he could be next. Studying is dangerous, they said. People who think too much disappear, but he wanted to be a doctor. So he learned to play a Chinese violin, the erhu, and to dance, not out of joy, but to survive. Dancing was the only way to avoid the fate of the camps. Still, fear lived in every breath. Each morning could be his last at home. Until one day, everything changed. The Cultural Revolution ended, the universities reopened. Ming went back to school, skipping 3 entire years, studying under that same weak bulb, while volunteer teachers came at night, paid only with gratitude. He passed. Against every odd, he entered university. And then a new dream, America. At 21, carrying only $50 and a Chinese English dictionary, Ming Wang stepped into a world he didn't know. He spoke almost no English, but he could finally breathe freedom. He wore the same worn-out suit his mother had bought, with 2 months of wages. While others laughed in jeans and sneakers, he only dreamed of one thing: to learn. Years later, Ming Wang had become a laser physicist at MIT and a medical student at Harvard, surrounded by microscopes, glowing instruments, artificial eyes. But inside him, an emptiness was growing. He believed in science, only science. Yet the deeper he studied the human eye, the more impossible it all seemed. There are more cells in a single human eye, he realized, than there are stars in the visible universe. How could something so perfect come from random chance? One day, a professor, a quiet Christian, took him out to lunch. He pointed across the street and said, "What's that?" "A car," Ming answered. "Can random pieces of metal assemble themselves into a car?" "Well, of course not." "Then why believe random atoms could build the human eye?" And in that silence, something cracked inside him, and something else began to bloom. Faith entered not like lightning, but like a soft, steady light, revealing what had always been there. There was a creator, and that creator had a name. But the true encounter would come years later. In an operating room, Dr. Ming Wang was now world-renowned. His mission: to restore sight to a 5-year-old girl from India named Kajal. She had been blinded when her stepmother threw acid into her eyes, believing a blind orphan singing on the streets would earn more pity and more money. Before the surgery, Ming prayed. He begged God for a miracle, but the operation failed. There was nothing left to rebuild. He left the room drenched in sweat, his heart burning with anger. Why, God? Why didn't you listen? Days turned into nights. Faith slipped away. If God was real, why didn't he answer? Why let a child suffer so cruelly? Months later came the Eyeball Charity Gala, his foundation's annual event. Kajal stood on stage, blind but smiling. A little boy from her host family spoke into the microphone. "She can't see, but she always finds us when we play. She's happy, even blind. Dad, I don't need my iPod anymore." "Kajal taught me to be grateful." Ming's throat tightened. Tears burned his eyes. Then Kajal reached for the microphone. "Dr. Wang," she said, "I want to sing." She raised her tiny voice and began, "Jesus loves me, this I know." The room went still. 500 people held their breath as a blind child sang about love. In that moment, Ming understood. God had answered, just not the way he expected. The miracle wasn't in Kajal's eyes. It was in her heart. And somehow in his too. Dr. Wang continued his work. He discovered a way to heal the eye using the amniotic membrane, the protective tissue surrounding a baby in the womb. A technology born from life, not destruction. A miracle of faith and science united. He donated the patent, refused the profit. Today, millions can see again because of that discovery. But Ming Wang knows the most important vision isn't with the eyes. It's with the soul, he says. We all live somewhere between light and shadow. But true blindness isn't the lack of sight. It's the inability to see love, grace, and purpose. One day, someone asked him if he still believed in miracles. He smiled and said, "Yes, because I became one." Even when God doesn't answer your prayer your way, He's still opening your eyes. Dr. Wang's story reminds us that pain is not proof of God's absence. It's often the stage for His greater revelation. Like Job, he questioned God in his suffering, yet discovered that divine purpose burns even in silence. Like Joseph, who was betrayed but later saved nations, what seemed like tragedy became transformation. And like Paul, who was blinded on the road to Damascus, Ming learned that sometimes God closes our eyes just long enough to help us truly see. When we can't find God's hand, we can still trust His heart. He turns failure into faith, sorrow into sight, and loss into life. We walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:7. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. John 20:29. If this story moved you, don't let it end here. Ask yourself, what areas of my life are still in darkness? Invite the same light that reached Ming Wang, the light of Christ, to open your eyes. 2. Could you pray with me for a moment? Lord, open my eyes to see you, not just with vision, but with faith. And if this touched your heart, share this video so that others may find sight, hope, and the courage to believe again.